Welcome to another episode of the Biz Coach Show. And as always, we're hanging out with Eric T. Whitmore, founder and CEO of My Biz Coaches. And we are talking about an exciting topic today. The show is geared toward business coaches. Maybe you've been doing it a while. Maybe you're thinking about becoming a business coach, or maybe you're a professional that serves small businesses and you're trying to figure out maybe some new opportunities, some new revenue streams. All of that are things that we talk about on the show every single week. And so if you haven't already subscribed, be sure to do so. And today we're talking about how to build a 100K coaching business. And so, Eric, I'm curious to see what kind of tips and advice you have for us today. So I'll hand it over to you, man.
Awesome. Appreciate that, David. So first one I'm going to start with is the define your unique value proposition. So, we talk about defining your niche. I say that in probably, if not every show, every other show likely. But defining your niche, who's the target audience, who you want to go after. But before we can do that, what we really need to do is we need to define what you're good at. So let's make sure that we identify what your niche and who you want to work with. What category of business, like if it's sales or if it's finance or if it's, different components like the operations, right? Whatever category of business or area of business that you really thrive in, that should be the area that you focus on. If you're like myself, a little bit more well-rounded and you've done a little bit of everything, then you can, kind of touch on all of those and be a jack of all trades. The one thing I will tell you that could be a detriment, which was a detriment to me when I first started, was clearly identifying what I did for my clients. And the reason it was a problem was because I could do anything for my clients, or at least I felt like I could. The truth of the matter is even if I could do a little bit of everything for everybody, part of my challenge was that when I would share that from a marketing perspective or a networking perspective, right, trying to share what I do, people couldn't connect with it. It didn't resonate with them. They're like, what does that look like? Right. So when you will find that not only is it confusing for you, but it's also confusing for the client. The client doesn't know what to expect. They hear coaching. Well, is that life coaching? Is that leadership coaching? Is that people coaching? What does that look like? Well, for me, it's pretty much all of that because I've done all of that and I'm very comfortable in most of the spaces. But if I say that to the average client, the reality is they are like, I don't know if I need any of that. I'm a one-person operation. Well, great. We got sales strategy concepts. We got marketing strategy concepts. We have, fulfillment strategy concepts. So where are you in your business and what do you need? And then I can identify that. And the problem with that is that requires a relatively engaged conversation that takes a little bit of time. So if you're trying to use marketing to drive people to want to engage with you and schedule an appointment with you to talk about what you can do for them, you need to give them some very clear deliverables that you can provide for them. And when you do that, it will greatly enhance your ability to engage with clients and improve the odds that people will want to schedule that appointment to begin with. So identify your niche, focus on the specific area where you have an expertise and where there's demand, right? I will tell you, I've said this literally hundreds of times. When I first started, I got a lot of people come to me and say, hey, I've got a lead problem. So much so that I went and got a client as a digital marketing agency as a client because I felt like I needed to understand digital marketing to be able to get more clients. In reality, that was probably accurate. I'm not saying it wasn't, but I can tell you that what I uncovered with all those conversations was often, and again, I've said this phrase before, I know that you believe that you have a lead problem, but what I know from being a sales manager for many, many years, you may very well have a sales conversion problem and not a lead problem. You may be talking to enough people, you just don't have a good sales process and or a broken one, or you're not talking to the right people, right? So anyway, I say all that to say is that when you have a unique niche that you're very comfortable in, and you can clearly identify what your unique value proposition is, you can articulate that in your marketing strategies, your messaging, your elevator pitch, your 30-second commercial, whatever it is that you do to put your information in front of somebody, even your marketing collateral, your flyers, your brochures, everything you put together and you share, your website, right? All of that messaging should clearly identify, here is what I provide for my clients. And when you do that, that'll help dramatically in your ability to convert people and want to engage with you.
Yeah, awesome. Well, great advice, and yeah, certainly a great starting point. As I know we've talked about a number of times, just how critical that is, and really it resonates with the right clients if you do it the right way, and kind of almost acts as a magnet drawing them to you. So really makes sense. Cool.
The thing I'd add to that, Dave, is that when you do the messaging, you should literally hear clients say, when they hear your message, they're like, "Wow, I felt like you were talking to me."
Yeah. Right.
When
Yeah. Yeah.
when a client says that to you about some marketing message, you know you've hit the nail on the head, and you found that that client is like, "Wow." To your point, the magnet. I'm drawn to you. You were saying the words that I've been frustrated with, right?
Yeah.
So then, yeah, you know your messaging is landing.
Yeah. Absolutely. Cool. Great point. Well, what's your next bit of advice?
So the next one's to make sure you create a high value coaching package. The first of all, offer more than offer significantly more value than what you're charging. Coaching in and of itself is hard to quantify. The only thing that the average person can really quantify with coaching is, what are the results that I get from the completion of the coaching. So when I'm done with the coaching, it's allowed me to increase my sales by 50%, 100%, 200%, whatever, or increase my profit margins from 10% to 20%, or whatever that is, right? My leads are tripled. Whatever your niche is, right? In that you pick in, when you put your package together, make sure it's a high value package. Provide more than than the client could expect for the price that you're charging, because it will be almost impossible to quantify the value of your package unless you got tons and tons of testimonials. And I say that, I mean, literally like 100 or so testimonials, video testimonials, more specifically, of people talking great things about you. And that will help substantially. But until you get there, you've really got to oversell what you offer. So one, get a clear message of what you offer, what you do, and what's the value proposition you're providing. I would add one additional piece, which is follow the traditional sales process. You want a good, better, best offering. So what's the best solution you have? What's the entry-level solution you have? And what's that nice place in the middle? And then remember that most people by default will opt for the option in the middle. So if you want your average sale to be, I don't know, let's just say for the sake of argument, $500 on a monthly basis, then you should offer a $1,000 product and a $200 product. And you will find that maybe even a $300 product. Most people will gravitate to that middle product because nobody wants the bare bones thing, but they may not be able to afford the premium price. So if they'll opt for that one in the middle because it's a good, and especially if you strategically price it that way. So if you say the entry level price is $300, your premium's $1,000, but your middle one's $500, you'll consistently get the $500 pretty regularly. And then have value added services, include additional resources such as ebooks, online courses, other exclusive content you make available to just your clients. So for instance, if you're a client of ours, we've recently begun to offer a CRM. We provide an included CRM when somebody becomes a client. By the way, that CRM, we sell it $97 a month to anybody else. But if you're a paying client as a coach client of ours, you get that CRM for free or included. So, what's that value add? That's, one of the things that we've incorporated into our program. But you want to have those as well. And it makes the client a little more sticky.
Yeah, and I'll just mention, we'll link it as well, but we do have a full episode on pricing your coaching services. And so definitely want to check that out if you want a deeper dive into that. But I think that's just a really good intro to that topic, which I know you could probably go on for hours, which we don't have time for, but I know you could. But if you want more on that, definitely check out that episode. A lot of good stuff there. So, yeah,
great reminder. Appreciate that.
For sure. Well, cool. Yeah, what's next?
Well, so next you need to build a strong online presence. I will say that for the better part of the first 2 years, I did not have a great online presence. Not that I didn't put a lot of value in it, just that I was putting my effort into my personal networking, going group to group, networking with a number of different people, and I didn't really see the value. Let me rephrase that. Didn't have the bandwidth to do it myself, didn't have the budget to pay to get it done. and chose to, just kind of tolerate what I had to begin with, which wasn't ideal. It wasn't terrible, just wasn't what I wanted. I guess that's probably, it wasn't bad. It just wasn't great. But when you build your online presence, there's a lot that goes into that. I could speak to that pretty extensively today. 4.5 years ago, I could not spoke to that to the same level. And there's a lot that goes on to your online presence. We're not just talking about your website, although that's a component of it, but making sure that your branding strategy, your logo, you don't need to go and spend $5,000 on a logo. I know there's people out there that charge that. I used to coach some of those people. I'm not discrediting the value of that. I'm just saying, until you're making a couple $100,000 a year in revenue, you don't need to go spend $5,000 on a logo. It's not going to make that much of a difference. There's a number of different things. Your colors, the consistency in your branding is probably one of the important things about the online presence. If I go from your Instagram to your Facebook to your LinkedIn, I know mine was very sporadic in the beginning. You want that the picture you use, the color scheme that you use, the logo, obviously, all that kind of stuff. All of that needs to be consistent. As I go from the different platforms, I feel like I'm in the same place. That's an important component. So your social media presence is equally important. Making sure that you're investing time and energy into make it that your SEO is set up correctly on your website and your different platforms. You should have a newsletter at minimum one, maybe multiple, depending on your business model. You should have a lot of video content. You should have a ton of content. You should have even more video content, or as much video content. Podcast is a great way to go, especially if you're in an educational component. But so all of these things are components of your online presence. You don't need all of them right away. You can certainly do them. A strategy that I would recommend, that I currently recommend to most of my clients, is start with one thing, do that for a quarter, get it solid, move to the next thing, right? So social platform, get your first social platform, do that for 3, maybe even 6 months before you add the next platform. If you already have platforms out there, great, make them all consistent, but only focus on marketing in one of them for the first 3 months, then add a second one, then add a third one. There's a lot that goes into the strategy, so I can't go that deep into that. But when you tie all these things together, you recognize the opportunity there. And then make sure that you're incorporating your testimonials and success stories and things like that in addition to with all of that. And that'll go a long way to helping you generate leads just from your online presence.
Yeah, and I think that's so key, because your consistency really is the first kind of peak for people at your credibility, right? And so if
Absolutely.
your site looks good, it's all consistent, right? The formatting, everything is on point, they're going to automatically, right? Even before they even get into your content or have a conversation, they're going to think, oh, this person knows what they're doing. And that's just that first foot in the door with the client. So really, really important in our digital age.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, what's next?
So the next one then is to go and leverage your social media and your networking. So once you've got your presence and you've got your consistency in your branding and your messaging, now you want to go a little bit deeper, and you actually want to put some posts out there, right? And you just mentioned the word consistency. That's super important in both your social media marketing or any kind of marketing that you're doing, as well as your networking. I think there's a natural tendency for people to go to a networking event and then not go again for weeks or months even. Huge missed opportunity. Networking is most valuable when you develop referral partners, and that takes time. That takes building a relationship. I would say that a good rule of thumb that I got from one of my partners that I work with, the people over at Empowerment Networking Organization, it's 75% of the time. If there's a weekly gathering, you should be there no less than 75% of the time, which that's reasonable. I think anything beyond that can be a little cumbersome. Maybe for extended periods of time, you might not miss anything. But if you consistently hit 75% of the time, the consistency factor that you referenced, David, becomes valuable, because people, to your point, they know that you're going to show up. You don't disappear for weeks and months at a time and then all of a sudden show up again looking for leads, right? Nobody's going to refer somebody to somebody who doesn't show up on a regular basis. So it's super valuable to make sure that you do that. But get yourself out there into other places too, not just the weekly networking groups, but also look at conferences, join webinars, look for some of the online stuff so you can maximize your ROI as far as time. and look for those other opportunities to network. And as it relates to social platforms, make sure that you're posting on a consistent basis, again, every day minimum. Okay, I'm going to say it again, every day minimum, 1 post a day, every day on a social platform. And if you have 5 social platforms, either prepare to make the investment into a VA or something like that to get it done, or get up at 4 o'clock in the morning like I did for the better part of 2 years. If you do that, the residual impact that you'll build from that, the residual effect that you'll get from that is well worth its weight in gold. If you're inconsistent with it while you're building it, it won't have the same value. And if you only do it once a week, I mean, you won't really see anything. It's almost not even worth doing at that point. So recognize, you heard it here. You need to be posting at least daily on whatever social platform you're expecting to use to either generate leads or convert business from.
Yeah, consistency again. I'm seeing like a theme here, Eric. I don't know. It's almost like you planned that or something. But yeah, no, really makes sense. And I think, one of the things we've talked about a number of times is you're going to start a lot rougher than you finish, right? But you need to start, right? So your first video probably going to suck. Your first social post is probably going to suck. But guess what? Your 5th one will be a little better. Your 10th one, even better. By the time you get 20, right? You're going to be just as good as everybody else, right? But it's just getting in that habit and being super disciplined. I mean, you're still super disciplined on your articles and everything else, but I know there's a period of time when you were, writing your first book and those things, and you really optimize those morning hours to become kind of a content king. And that may be what it takes for people for a season to get really good and comfortable with it.
Yeah. I don't know if you remember me telling this, but when I wrote my first book, Success with Goals, I published it two separate times, and the second time I was able to get the Amazon bestseller. And thanks for the plug there. But when I did that, you mentioned I mentioned getting up at 4 a.m. You mentioned me consistently doing that and posting. It was the posting that I did for 2 years during the process of writing the book that led to the following that I had that allowed me to pump it out there. And so ironically, I think I was going to tell you the vast majority, I say vast majority, I don't remember the exact percentage, but I want to say it's north of 90% of books never sell 100 copies.
Wow. So
I'm exceptionally proud to say that I've sold over 500 copies and actually distributed over 1,500 copies.
That's awesome.
Nothing, I certainly didn't get rich from that, but I extended a lot of relationships and created a lot of new partnerships from that. But the point is that the reason that most people don't sell the 100 books is because they didn't do the work that produced the sales, right? Yeah. So once when I got to my bestseller status, I just kind of backed off the marketing effort. But I did enough, right, over 2 years to build that backlog and generate those sales. Had I not done that, I would not have achieved that.
Yeah.
And I say that to say that just goes to show that consistency factor is so important, and people often lose sight of it. And I just think as we look at the technology and the way things are going online more and more, that's something you just can't disregard.
Yeah. Well, you touched on something else too that I know we've mentioned a few times, but I think is worth noting again is, you talked about consistency with like the networking group, for example, but really in all of our marketing, because it's very tempting when things are going well, right? In the fat times versus the lean times, right? You scale back or you don't prioritize it. Well, guess what happens, 3 months, 6 months down the road when things get a little leaner and maybe you've a client that, stops paying or whatever. And then all of a sudden, you got to find more people again. You got to pick that back up. So it's really important to just maintain that momentum and just maintain that discipline, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Cool. Okay. Well, another topic for us.
All right. Number 5, implement effective sales strategies. Again, this is a learning lesson. And I'm saying that as a sales professional, 25 plus year sales professional, selling my coaching services, my own created coaching services, was a challenge. It was not easy in the beginning. And not from a lack of effort, but from a lack of confidence. As much as I felt like I could help people, how I conveyed that verbally was challenging. How I conveyed that in word was even more challenging. The truth of the matter is that confident sales. Anybody who's ever done sales knows exactly what I'm talking about. And the challenge is in the beginning when you first start selling your own coaching services. And so for some people, they're still selling coaching services today and struggle because they have a hard time selling themselves. So having an effective sales strategy is exceptionally important. And part of that strategy is having a good lead generation process that puts you in front of qualified people that are looking for your solutions. So again, what is my solution? Going back to literally step one, what's the proposition that I provide? What's the service I offer? And here's what you can expect to get from the service I provide. And then be able to say that with confidence will help you convert those sales. The lead generation, you want to use a series of different lead generation strategies. In the very beginning, get one, go deep with it, do it until you get good at converting on that on a regular basis. Then add a second one. So maybe every 90 days, you add an additional lead generation process, and then test your conversion ratio. Recently, I went through this conversation with a client who is in the health insurance space, and they get leads from the company that they make phone calls. And they have to be able to get the free leads from the company. They have to make 100 calls. Sorry, they have to make 500 calls a day or 2,000 calls a week. Those are cold calls. Okay. So if you've ever done cold calls, 500 calls a day, that's a grip of time. It's at least, she typically spends about 3 hours a day doing that. But then they give her that many leads, right? So they said these are free leads. Now, the quality of leads is a whole nother conversation. We'll table that for a moment. But in the month of January, those 2,000 leads generated 8 sales. Now, a secondary strategy that she picked up along the way, and this is before she became my client, she was buying leads, which anybody who's done insurance sales is familiar with buying leads. You bought leads, right? Those conversions were not quite as good, right? And to the tune of anywhere from $500 to $1,000 a month for those leads, actual cash out of pocket, right? And then the third strategy that she had, which she developed starting in, I think it was last summer, July or August, I think it was. And she started doing TikTok videos and promoting and introducing health insurance and the importance of it. So ironically, fast forward, she calls me. We have a coaching session. We met through a networking group. So I offered a free coaching session. We went through the session. And the first question she had for me is, she goes, well, where should I be spending most of my time? And then so we reviewed the numbers, because she did a great job of tracking which leads were generating which sales, and she could actually give me all the numbers. So we broke it all down. She was closing half as many sales on TikTok as she was from the company provided leads, but she was spending 1/5 of the time. So half as many sales, 1/5 of the time. So my coaching and by the way, the paid leads that she was buying, she had closed one sale in 90 days. I'm like, so one, stop buying leads. That'll save you $1,800 right there. That's how much she had spent in 3 months. Two, let's double down on the TikTok videos. Let's get more content out there consistently every day, 2 and 3 times a day, maybe even. And I said, let's do that consistently over the next 90 days. And as soon as the sale conversion to lead generation doubles your productivity from the company leads, stop doing the company calls, stop taking the company leads, and don't make the phone calls. And I said, you'll have a more successful business, and you'll actually have even more time to yourself. You'll actually be making more money on less time. And, and then we were able to do that because she tracked her numbers, which is one of the big things that I tell people all the time. So anyway, have an effective sales strategy and lead generation and sales funnel that you can follow. And because she was doing that, it was real easy for me to sit down and break down the numbers with her and then to help her understand. And the worst part is she knew that. What she needed was somebody other than her supervisor at the company who's like, well, you don't want to lose those free leads you get, so you got to keep cold calling those leads. Well, I don't know, but I'm going to bet she's one of maybe 10% of all the people that work for that company that actually make that many freaking cold calls on a regular basis. Right. And so my bet is that as soon as she stopped, the reason that the supervisor wants her to do that is because not everybody's making the cold calls. So they want somebody to keep making those calls. But if she can do it through TikTok videos and do it in 20% of the time, what a game changer, right? So anyway, a little bit long-winded there, but I wanted to illustrate the process, how important it is to have an effective sales funnel and a leads generation strategy, and then kind of stay true to your core, stay true to what's get you, bringing the business in, but then continue to innovate. And you'll hear me say that a lot. Look for other options, incorporate new ideas in there. And then most importantly, make sure you have some kind of follow-up structure. So once you've sold an existing client, ask for the review. When you get the review, ask them if they know of anybody else that'd be interested in buying the services. Everybody knows this. Anybody who's ever done sales knows all these things that they should be doing. Create a process that gets it done. When you do that, you see the results from that.
Yeah, good stuff, Eric. And again, bonus nugget in there. I know you slip them in consciously or subconsciously. I'm not always sure, but important to know your metrics, right? To really understand your time, to understand where your revenue is coming from, your conversion, your marketing spend, right? All those things are just so critical, especially as you're growing and scaling your coaching business. If you're not spending a few minutes, every day or every week tracking that, you're missing out, right? Because you're either throwing money at the wrong things or spending time on the wrong things. And so really important to know your metrics.
Well, and I think the key there was, David, is not only did she kind of knew that inherently going into the conversation with me, and all she really needed was me to convey to her, or not convey, but confirm for her that was the right strategy. And she just needed me to give her the confidence to say, hey, you're having all the success with TikTok. You should just double down on that.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I did say, I'm not saying, 100% walk away from the company leads, because those are free leads. And as long as they're generating a certain amount of sales, there's value in that. But when you can get your video work, which is a fraction of the time, to outpace your cold calls, I said I'd get off of that as soon as I could.
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
Yep.
She just needed that confirmation, but we were only able to do that because, to your point, the KPIs. She knew her numbers.
Yep, absolutely. Well, good stuff, Eric. A lot of good advice today. Anything else you want to share before we wrap up?
There's one last bonus one that I want to kind of touch on.
Oh yeah, awesome, man.
And so the one thing that often comes up as none of this is valuable unless you're actually providing good quality information and content and engagement with your clients and everything like that. But which is important, right? So the content that I create today and that I provide for you, valuable, it's good. I'm sure that most of you that are in the coaching space, you care enough about the clients you engage with. If you're doing coaching just for the money, that's probably not the right reason to be doing it. But most importantly, delivering exceptional results, going above and beyond to provide quality information for your clients is really important. But the only way you can continue to do that is to constantly look to improve, right? Look for ways to make your content better. Look for ways to improve your strategies. Look for ways to engage your people in a different way that allows them to grow in additional ways, in ways that they didn't anticipate. And that means you have to be constantly looking, how do I tweak and add more to this? How do I make this better than I did before? And you referenced this earlier in another session, David, but it was, taking the time to analyze your process and recognize, is it good? Okay, it's good. Could it be better? And how do I make it better? And what little things could I do to tweak this and make it better? Take feedback from your clients. Take feedback from other people. If you need to, give away a free session to somebody who you already know is familiar with that information, and ask them to give you feedback and say, you know what, I might do this a little differently. I might add this. I might put more time into this, whatever that is. But that you'll find a lot of value in constantly evaluating your process and your systems and even your content. And is it the best? And if it's not the best, or if it's good, but it could be better, then what can we do to make it better? And let's implement that, because your clients will appreciate that. There's somebody that I follow pretty extensively on LinkedIn or on YouTube, sorry. And Meet Kevin, David, I know you're familiar with Meet Kevin. One of the things I always appreciate about all the courses he sells on his program is that he says, because they're standard courses. They're not coaching, they're courses. So one of the things he can do with that is he'll continually update them. And as new information comes out that's valuable and relative to the content he created for the course, anybody who bought the program immediately gets access to the new updated content. So for instance, he built a program on how to build a YouTube channel and all the different things that you would do to grow and scale that YouTube channel. Well, in that program, as things change in YouTube, he updates the content and immediately makes it available to anybody who ever bought the program, regardless of when they bought it or how much they paid for it. Even if they bought it 5 years ago, they still get that update and they still get that new information. Imagine the value offer that provides to somebody, the confidence that when they buy it, they know that they're getting the best available information because they'll keep getting updated. So again, how do you improve it? How do you make it better? And how can you, and that's, one of the best things you could possibly do to be able to scale your business is to look to constantly improve. And when you're doing that, it gives you that eye to how do I make it better and what can I do to make it better?
Love it. Always love the bonus tips, Eric. So keep them coming. It's always good stuff. Well, anything at My Biz Coaches going on that you want to spotlight? Anything coming up? Anything you want to focus on?
So we do have a big announcement. I'm going to tease it yet again. It's out there. It is coming. It's technically official. I just want to make sure that we have some material for you to present. So we'll probably put it off another week or so. But we have a big partnership coming up here. We actually have and some updates to our sister website, the Biz Coach Network. Put a lot of work into that site. Now we'll have all of our coaches who have profiles will be put there on the Biz Coach Network, so you can go there and find coaches that you want to work with. And as we grow and spend more time and energy in building out the Biz Coach Network, we're adding an entire series of partnerships, affiliate relationships that we're making available to anybody who partners with My Biz Coaches, and they can piggyback on any of these relationships that we've developed. These are companies that we've vetted, that we're comfortable in referring to our existing client, our own clients. So we're happy to pass those relationships on to our peers and anybody who's in the coaching space that's looking at, or even if you're not a coach, but you're a professional who serves business owners, you may find value in partnering with us on that. And we have really inexpensive programs that they can join, $200 a year or something like that. You have to go check it out, but we'll make the announcement here officially shortly here, but we have some really major partnerships that'll tie in with all of that. And I'm excited to be able to make that announcement here pretty soon.
Awesome. Well, it sounds good. We'll tease it one more week. And as Eric mentioned, if you're a business coach now, you've thought about business coaching, or you serve small businesses and just want to learn more about some of the things that Eric talked about, head over to mybizcoaches.co/coach, or you can scan the QR code and just learn more, right? Even if it ends up not being a fit for you, it doesn't hurt to have a conversation, doesn't cost you anything, but you might find out about some awesome opportunities to grow your coaching business, start your coaching business, or create additional revenue as you continue servicing small businesses in your current role that you're in today. So good stuff as always, Eric. And again, if you do not already subscribe to the show, take a second to do that, just one click, and then you don't miss future episodes like this one, where we talk about a lot of great advice and tips for coaches and those that serve small businesses. So Eric, as always, great hanging out with you, and thanks for your time and information today.
Thanks, David.